Okay, good morning. This is the Troy Community Land Bank meeting for July 29th, 2020, held pursuant to Executive Order 2.02. Will the chair please call the roll?
Suzanne Spellin.
Here.
Brian Barker. Sharon Nichols.
Here.
Jeanette Nicholson.
Here.
John Cubitt.
Here.
John Carmelo. Andrew Cooper. Christina Maribel.
Present.
Patricia Riley.
Present.
Also in attendance, we have Kate Hedgeman, Tony Tazi. Greg, are you here? Greg Tobin? Okay, Greg is our real estate broker, Patricia and Christina. He's also serves ad hoc on some of our committees as well, so he's typically with us as well. Is there anybody that I missed?
I think so.
All right, so we have in front of us our first order of business is the approval of the April 22nd minutes. Gosh, it's been a while, guys. Did everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
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 Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
That's John Cubitt, and the second is,
Jeanette.
okay, so I'm going to go down the line, and Suzanne Spellin.
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Patricia?
Yes.
And I will also approve. Okay, committee reports.
I approve too.
That's because I think we have to.
Who did we miss?
Andrew.
Oh, I didn't hear, Andrew, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that you were here. Andrew. He's a yes. This is not the fun part of Zoom.
Because you're on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Tony, I'm going to turn it over to you for the committee reports.
Well, typically we have our financial report from Sharon.
Sharon.
Okay, you want me to, yeah, you want me to take over, Tony?
Well, that's usually what you do.
Okay, well, you said typically. I wasn't sure if you were prefacing that because you were doing something atypical.
No.
Okay.
I mean, we usually have you give the financial report, and then any other board chairs, or I'm sorry, committee chairs who want to provide a report do so. But I think the finance committee report is typically the only report that's generally provided.
Sharon, are we going to be going off of that report from Bowers, that we have, that 10-page report
Yeah.
that was sent out with the agenda? Okay. Does everybody have that in front of them or access to that?
Yep.
Okay. Sharon, it's all you.
Come on, guys, this is information here. Okay. So there's a couple things on our financial statements that I want to bring to your attention this time. We did discuss this stuff at our finance committee meeting. If you look at the balance sheet comparison and you look at the amount of cash we have, our cash is really low. We know that. This is not a shocker. We were expecting this. We're having a cash flow crunch. On the bright side, Tony thinks we're probably through the worst of it, and we are working our way back out of it, but we're still not quite there. So you're going to notice in our total bank accounts as of June 30th, we have $33,500. That's, if you compare that to last year, we had like $264,000. That's quite a change. This is a matter of timing issues. We do believe we have it under control. We are aware of some incoming sources of cash in terms of a disbursement coming from Tanya And also we have some upcoming property sales. That's not going to be immediate money. We do have our line of credit that we can tap meanwhile if we really need to, which we may. So we are well aware that cash is really low right now, and we do believe we have it covered, and we think we're through the worst of it. So that, I mean, that's kind of the high point on the balance sheet, to be honest with you guys. The next thing I want to bring to your attention, if you look at the profit and loss comparison, and you look year to year, January to June 2020 versus January to June 2019, you'll see that total income is significantly lower than last year. We show about $229,000 in total income this year as compared to about $471,000 last year. I mean, we're talking less than half of last year. The largest changes we have there are, last year we had private donations from the the Stewarts provided us with that building. Aquin provided us with a building. I mean, those are the most substantial changes between last year and this year. Well, and we had more property sales at this point in time last year. Those are the most substantial changes. Property sales, that's just a matter of timing. You know, we do have some property sales coming up, but we have not had year to date any outside contributions and donated buildings like we had last year. So that's a significant change between last year and this year, and that goes all the way to the bottom line. So, you know, our bottom line is a lot lower this year, and it's directly related to the donations of properties from outside parties. So that led to a discussion at the Finance Committee meeting about pursuing alternative sources of revenues, grants, and whatnot. And Tony is planning on following through on that with some conversations, I believe, with some seat folks. That discussion had, I think that there was preliminary discussions about locating some grants and whatnot for us. And Tony is going to follow through on that and see what we can do there. The other thing I just want to let you guys know is that the accounting firm is in the process of looking to see if we can meet the requirements for the exemption for filing Form 990. So we've given them the go-ahead to file the necessary paperwork to see if we can meet the exemption requirements so that we don't have to worry about filing Form 990 in the future. Just an FYI, the IRS is not likely to backdate this for us. We will probably end up having to file a 990 for at least the 2019 tax year, possibly even the 2020 tax year. But if we can eliminate the need to file that form going forward, that would be a nice thing. And so our accounting firm is in the process of working on that. I think those are a couple of the highlights from the Finance Committee meeting in the finance world. Tony, is there anything else that I missed that I should have brought up?
I think you covered everything we talked about Monday when Finance met.
Yeah. I'm just trying to give the highlights so we don't drag this out.
Yeah, no, I think you hit all the marks. Thanks.
Okay.
I have a
Does anyone
question.
have any questions? Yes.
Yeah,
I do.
what's the 990?
What's 990? I'm sorry, that wasn't very clear, was it? The 990 is our federal income tax form that we are have been required to file annually. And, you know, the fact that we're a nonprofit doesn't exempt us from a filing. It really is an information return in our world. And it is important because the Form 990 is open to the public. So anyone is eligible to log on and see our Form 990 and see what resources we were provided and how we use those resources. And they can use that information to decide whether we are a worthy cause for contribution or whether we're a bunch of deadbeats that are just burning through money without making any progress. So the Form 990 is important in that respect, in that it is a public document. Anyone can see it and make a determination as to how we're using our resources. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Any other
Sharon,
questions?
my question actually might be for Tony. I'm not sure. It's just with regard to the grant funds that recently became available through COVID-19, which Richard Herrick was gracious enough to forward to the
Yeah, I was
board.
glad he sent that email. Well, you know,
Right.
one thing about Richard is he's rarely wrong when he sends things. So, and this was a good, I didn't know about this grant, so I was glad that he sent that email. I really was. I tried to contact the city to learn a little bit more information about it, and I have not connected with Steve Streichman yet. I have on my to-do list to call him directly just to set up a time to talk. But I looked at the application and I couldn't find very clear instructions from the city as to how to complete the application, eligibility, that kind of stuff. So I went online to, what is it, the American CARES Act, and basically HUD, CDBG. They did have additional information, but I'd still like to talk to the city. You know, I'm expecting to submit an application. I just want to know that whatever I submit aligns with something the city would be receptive to. You know, when a grant application comes up, usually one of the things I ask the folks who are going to make that decision is, you know, am I wasting my time doing an application for this round, for this, you know, for this competition? If so, let me know. So that's usually my first question. Then the second question is, what kind of, you know, applications are you guys really hoping to see? And once I know that, then I can no doubt formulate some sort of a game plan for the application. I think the application's due August, I want to say August 6th. I could be off a day or two. It's not a long application, so I don't think it's going to be all that difficult to pull together on my end.
Tony, it's Kate. Oh, I was going to, it looked like Richard Herrick was trying to get into the meeting, and I was just going to give everyone a heads up. I was going to allow that, but he's gone. He must have hung up, so
Huh.
never mind.
Okay, so Tony, I guess your answer is you're pursuing it as opposed to somebody at C.
Yes, at this point, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
All right. I'd like to note that Brian Barker is in on the call. Hi, Brian.
Morning. Good morning.
Hi.
All right. So, so Brian, do you want to give a summary of the A&D committee meetings? We do have some resolutions on the agenda today relative to that.
I'm going to defer to Tony on that. I just don't,
Okay.
I'm not prepared.
So A&D met, oh gosh, I've got it right in front of me here and I can't quite read it. Well, on July 7th, A&D met last on July 7th, and they took two actions. One was to recommend approval of purchase applications for 3325 6th Avenue and a purchase application for 24 McClelland Avenue. That's further down on the agenda. So I won't get into the details there because I suspect if there's any questions, they'll come up when we're there on the agenda. And then A&D also made a recommendation for the board to give Kate approval authorization to go to court if needed to do enforcement. So we basically foreclose on 3 properties that we sold a couple of years ago. Those being 785 River Street and 836 River Street, who both buildings were sold to Jakob Neustadt, and 822 River Street, which was sold to Margareta Grazakowski. If I haven't slaughtered her name, I apologize if I did. And those were the actions that A&D took. I should say there was a special meeting. There were some issues just in terms of an application potentially not being complete for 24 McClelland Avenue. A&D had a special meeting on the 21st, and at that meeting, that is when they recommended that the board approve that application. I didn't circulate the applications, but I can do it in a moment if anybody wants me to send them. Okay. Any questions on A&D?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we need to put those resolutions on the, for a motion, Heather, to sell.
And are you going to mute me again?
Now I am. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to put on the table, we have a resolution to approve the sale of multiple properties, which were, I did just have it in front of me. 3325 6th Avenue. The applicant buyer is Edward Dumphy, and the purchase price is $15,750. We also have 24 McClellan. The applicant buyer is Colin Clark, and the purchase price is $80,000. So do we have a motion?
Motion.
That would be John Cubitt. Do we have a second?
Second.
Andrew Cooper. Okay. Heather King, I vote yes. Suzanne Spellin?
Yes.
Sharon Nichols? Sharon?
Yes.
Okay. Brian Barker?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Maribel? Patricia Riley?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay. Ooh.
Okay.
Heather,
All right.
you didn't,
So let's move on
Jeanette
to-
says yay.
I thought you motioned, Jeanette.
Oh. I didn't-
That's why I didn't call you. But
John
okay.
Cubitt
John-
motion.
I think John did.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Nonetheless,
me.
Okay.
That's an answer. Andrew votes aye.
Oh, that's the part that gets muddy for me. Okay.
oh,
So,
well.
I have a question. With these properties that you all are selling and you have the new homeowners, are there any stipulations? Are they like with the no-in mortgage? Is there any restrictions as far as if they fix it up, are they able to resell them? Do they have to stay there for a certain period of time? What is?
so who's asking right now? I apologize. I can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Christina. I'm still.
Oh, my goodness. That's okay.
I'm
Yes.
still
No,
kind
so
of
Christina,
So Christina, this is Kate Hedgeman, counsel. Yes, we put enforcement notes on the property. And what that does is it gives the property owners 1 year. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. It gives the property owners 1 year to complete the renovations that they submitted in their application. And we also have a few reporting periods within that 1 year period on the progress of the property.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to submit regular progress reports to us. In the past, and not to digress, we've had some issues with people completing properties, and you'll see two today that we'll discuss. So in any event, when that enforcement note period is up, technically, if they haven't finished the project, we would be able to take the property back. Now, that being said, if they're regularly progressing on the progress and they need an extension, they can always ask, the board for that. And we certainly can say, sure, with a timeline and, a description of what has to be finished, that's in our discretion. And it's construction, so sometimes you never know, things happen, so we try to be as flexible as possible because we don't want the property back. In addition to the enforcement note, we put in certain restrictions in the deed that there's a right of reversion if the property is not finished in time. And we do both of those for different legal reasons. It gives us two different causes of action, one on the enforcement note and the second one on the reverter in the deed. And also in the deed is a 5-year no flip restriction. Now, what that means is they, anybody who buys a property from the land bank, even if it's a vacant lot, there's a 5-year no flip. And the point of that is really to avoid a straw man or someone that we vetted to purchase the property. And we think, we'll complete the project and then just turning around later and flipping it very quickly for more money than they bought it from us. So the key there is this, though. If we have someone who renovates a property and, the whole purpose of the renovation is to resell it, what happens then is the new buyer that they want to resell it to within that 5-year period comes back to us to apply. We vet them as a responsible homeowner or landowner. Most of the time it's a building owner. And we approve that sale and we release the restriction and we allow it to go through. But this way, at least it has, land bank, the land bank has the ability to make sure that ultimately, if the person who bought it is just renovating it and they're not living there or they're not going to rent it, that ultimately it goes back to a responsible person. So generally speaking, we haven't had many of those yet. We're coming up on some of them where, they'll have a new buyer and we'll vet that buyer and we will most likely, there's usually not a reason not to release it. But that comes back to A&D and they approve that application and then we allow, the sale to go through. So that's kind of the process as a whole. Today on the agenda, you'll see 2 properties where they're just refusing to report. They're not responding to my legal letters. None of that. And there's no work completed. And the Attorney General's office, really Enterprise Community Partners now, who administers our grant, requires us to enforce these enforcement notes and to make sure that the properties are getting finished. And because of that, if we really are hearing nothing from the owners and they're just sort of ignoring us, we really have to push that enforcement or it'll subject us to an audit on our enforcement procedures. So when we get to those 2 properties in the agenda, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I just wanted to, give you a background on the process. And if you have any more questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I do. I guess I can wait for another time possibly,
Sure.
but I do have questions.
Okay.
There's a lot of information too, Christina, that you can find in the application. If we could forward just over the basics over to you, that's something that Kate they've drawn up to kind of help vet, and Tony works with the applicants very closely in the application process as well. That's why I don't know if you heard him mention that we had one came back because it didn't have enough information. Like the board requests, how are you going to pay for the renovations? What's your plan? Do you have the funds? So there's a lot that might be answered to in that information. So would you like us to send that over to you?
Yeah, that would be great. That would be appreciated. I guess my other question was, is there any talks or is there any partnership with TRIP as far as their pre-purchase clients and with some of their rehab funds an NRP program to get the homes purchased and also rehab at the same time to sustain the neighborhoods with new homeowners?
Well, the first thing I'll say is the application and a lot of information for the board and how the land bank runs is on the website. So you can go to the website and grab that application. I think, Tony, it should be there.
Yes, yep, it's there.
The second thing is I don't want to speak for A&D and Heather, but I think there should be discussion at a committee level about a partnership between TRIP and the land bank, and to see how they could possibly work together. Heather?
Well, yeah, we currently work with TRIP. They do our property management, so we do have a pre-existing relationship. As far as them providing us prospective purchasers, that's definitely something we could talk to them about. There was a program at the beginning of the land bank that we were, what was that one where they were getting grant money? Kate, do you remember that? It was like a Fannie Mae. There was a whole, so we've explored some other options, but Christina will be certainly always open to that. We currently co-dev with Habitat for Humanity, where they bring buyers. So it's something that we do have a history of doing currently, but we have yet to submit one with TRIP.
So now we have, pardon me, they weren't co-development agreements, but we had worked with TRIP in round 3 funding for 6163 Ingalls Avenue and 433 10th Street, which is part of TRIP's scattered site redevelopment. And in the funding from round 4.2, it does include a provision that we engage with someone whose title will be a community liaison, and part of their job will be to see what other community-based organizations have in terms of resources that the land bank may be able to funnel them to. Kind of do an inventory of what's out there among the TRIPs of the world and to get a better focus on how we can use those resources.
The one thing I just want to add to this discussion before I forget, for the new board members, and it's not being offered right now, I just checked the website, but you are required to take a Paris training from the state of New York. I also need to get you, and I can't recall, Christina, if I've gotten it to you yet already, but we have other new board members, the fiduciary duty acknowledgement that needs to be signed, and our conflict of interest policy. Those are very important things, because potentially with your employment at TRIP, Christina, we can certainly have the discussion with TRIP, but we're going to have to, if anything comes to a vote, you may have to recuse yourself on that as being an employee of TRIP. And I bring up the conflicts of interest in the Paris training because that explains a lot to board members about what conflicts of interest are and also how to handle them. So I will be in touch with Heather for those documents and the requirements to the new board members. And again, once I see that the Paris training is available, I will send you the link so you can sign up for that. You have 1 year from when you go on the board to take it. So we have some time. And since, COVID has happened, I think the ABO has, suspended all of that anyway, but we will keep track of it and we will be in touch.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next resolution, which is to acquire 814 River Street. I'm going to put this out there for discussion. Tony, do you want to give a little background on this one?
Yeah, this is the northernmost parcel of the 3 parcels along River Street: 806, 810, and 812 River Street. 814 would be the assemblage of 4 parcels of vacant property. This is the parcel that runs from River Street to 6th Avenue, so it's an important parcel in terms of its configuration and location. This is also part of the Troy Housing Authority and Beacon Communities initiative. This kind of got teed up. It got prompted by Beacon asking if the land bank would move forward to purchase this on Beacon's behalf when they move forward with their overall initiative. So that's how it got started. But even if Beacon did not exist, this is a parcel that the land bank had been seeking for quite some time from Vesta, who's the current owner. So it's an important piece. Beacon had the property appraised, and the appraisal report came back valued at $10,000. So that would be the purchase price.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve. Suzanne.
Do we have a second?
This is Sharon, I'll second.
Okay. This is Heather King. I vote yes. Suzanne Spellin made the motion. Sharon seconded. Brian Barker,
Yes.
Andrew Cooper,
Yes.
Jeanette Nicholson,
Yes.
John Cubitt,
Yes.
John Carmelo is absent. Christina Maribel,
Yes.
Patricia Riley.
Yes.
Okay. So we are all in favor, none opposed. All right, we are going to now move to, we have two resolutions in front of us, and these are resolutions to foreclose on property that Kate brought up earlier. One are the two properties purchased by Newstead, that's 785 and 836 River Street, and then the other one is the property 822 River Street. So we will put on the table the resolution to foreclose on 785 and 836 River Street first. Kate,
Thanks,
do you have
Heather.
anything you'd like to? You're welcome.
Sure. The history of both of these in particular is that, you know, Tony had tried several times throughout the year to get status on the progress of the work at these properties. He was unsuccessful in getting that. And then A&D took the next step and said, Kate, you know, could you write a letter stating that we're enforcing the, you know, the enforcement note, and we really would like an update on the progress of the property. And, you know, if we don't get that, it could result in the property being taken back. Two such letters from me went out. A letter from Tony went out prior to even my letters, and we're just not hearing anything. So pursuant to the land bank enabling statute, I'm asking for approval for the board to commence litigation to recover the properties. And at this point, it wouldn't be an actual foreclosure, you know, in the sense of foreclosing on a home for money, right? It's an enforcement note and mortgage. So the causes of action would be breach of contract, breach of the enforcement note, and to recover the property pursuant to the restrictions in the deed and the right of reversion. So I'm asking for, you know, a resolution from the board to authorize the chairman and myself to commence such litigation to recover the property. Any
Do I
questions?
have any questions?
Could you just sort of go over like what would happen from this point forward in the timeline? I'm just curious. Like so then what? Like we approve you to proceed.
Sure. So I requested title on these properties because when you take properties back, we should really be making sure that there's no judgments, liens, or other taxes and things due, right? So that should be back in about, I would say, 10 days. In the meantime, I'd be drafting the papers and getting those ready. So I would say probably another 2 to 3 weeks to commence it. We would file, obviously, in the Supreme Court, Rensselaer County. That's the proper venue that has jurisdiction over land matters such as this. Once it's filed, I have 20 days to serve, and they have 20 days to respond. So you're into another month, you know, kind of to get their response. And if there is no response, we would take it what they call a default judgment. The courts are still in COVID mode. So while the, we really wouldn't need judge involvement or court involvement until they responded, which is probably a good 45 days down the road. And, usually when the defendant is served, it does get a response finally at that point. So there will be an opportunity, if they so wish, to discuss, the future of the property while the action is pending. Any proposal to settle it would come back to the board. If it's the case where, they sometimes are willing to just sign a deed in lieu of foreclosure once the action's commenced and give the property back to settle the action, that's a possibility. At that time, we would only settle if they pay the attorney's fees and costs that you incurred to actually get them to respond. And so, that's a whole discussion to be had. If it really goes to just basic litigation and we have to force taking it back, it's probably a 4 to 6 month decision timeframe from the judge. The judge may call a conference call with the parties, prior to doing that to see, what's going on here. But generally speaking, they have 60 days to render a decision once a motion is made. So, I'd say realistically 4 to 6 months. Having done this with other land banks, like I said, once the defendant is served, it tends to expedite itself in one form or another. They finally respond and they either give it back or, we kind of know what we're looking at.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have a motion?
Well, I have a couple of minor quick things. In looking at these resolutions, I am fine overall with what we're doing, but I do see reference to Albany County Land Bank in both of the resolutions. So Kate, can you have your people go through there, make sure everything says Troy instead of Albany, please?
Yes, yes.
In the final version. Thank you.
Right. So I'm going to put it on the table as revised from Troy. Good eye, Sharon. So do we have a motion?
Motion.
I'll motion. Oh, okay, Sharon will second.
John will first. Okay. Heather King, I vote yes. Suzanne Spellin?
Yes.
Sharon was a yes. Brian Barker?
Yes.
Andrew Cooper?
Yes.
Jeanette Nicholson?
Yes.
John Cubitt made the motion.
Yeah.
Christina Maribel?
Yes.
Patricia Riley?
Yes.
Okay. So now we have in front of us, and Kate, am I supposed to be doing all in favor since we're voting this way now?
No, you
Via
don't.
Zoom or?
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't have to do that.
I didn't think so, but I just wanted to double check. Although I'm sure you would tell me if I needed to.
Of
So,
course.
all right, we have in front of us now the resolution approving the foreclosure of 822 River Street. So same process, Tony, you tried to reach out, and this was also the one, if I'm recalling correctly, that the purchaser, after we approved the plan and the sale, tried to change it, if I'm recalling correctly?
Yeah, they went to the city and started asking about changing the, pardon me, my voice always goes in the morning, trying to change this from a 3-unit to, I believe, a 5-unit. It didn't go anywhere. Actually, Suzanne and I went and did an inspection of the property a little over a year ago, and I was surprised that the current owner actually did do quite a bit of work. They went through and gutted out the building, but there hasn't been any evidence that anything's been done since then. And as Kate mentioned earlier, there hasn't been, despite our attempts to communicate, there has not been any response back from the current owner. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just was, yes, okay. Do we have a motion? And this one is also as amended to revise from Albany to Troy Land Bank.
Motion.
Motion.
All right, John, and I didn't catch who the other one was.
Christina.
Christina, okay, thank you. Heather King, I vote yes. Suzanne Spellin,
Yes.
Sharon Nichols,
Yes.
Brian Barker,
Yes.
Andrew Cooper,
Yes.
Jeanette Nicholson,
Yes.
John Cubit,
Yes.
Christina Maribel,
Yes.
Patricia Riley.
Yes.
Okay,
Heather, I'm sending
right.
over the revised right now to Tony, so when they're ready to be signed, he has them. Sorry about that, everybody.
thank you. That's okay. Everybody's busy and we're all, it's interesting times. So we have in front of us a board resolution to amend the contractor agreement with SEAT. Kate, Tony,
You want me to jump in first, Kate?
Sure.
So I have a weekly check-in call with some folks from SEAT, namely Rebecca and George. And a couple weeks ago, Rebecca indicated that they would like that SEAT is trying to act as a real general contractor, even though we have a co-development agreement with them on this. The previous agreement had the finances such that we would provide them with advances, and then once they spent down 80% of an advance, we would provide, the next advance. So SEAT has come back to us and said, that's not really how a general contractor would work, and because we are trying to, be real about this, we would rather be paid just like any other general contractor would be, which would mean no advances, and we would simply pay them for the value of the work that is performed satisfactorily. So that's the essence of the amendment to the agreement.
okay. I'm looking
So
over it
Tony-
here and it's breaking it down and it says the scope of work. This is on that Schedule C, where the projected amounts and then they have it broken down into certain components.
Yeah, that was
That's correct, Tony?
yeah. I think it's 4 or 5 phases that George Bauer from SEAT drafted to show. That was initially drafted to show how the advances would work. I think it's still pretty reasonable to use and actually pretty good to use, so that when those components of work are done, that's probably when they would be reimbursed.
Okay, yeah. So this would be for that new Schedule C to be added to the agreement, outlining the timeline and expenditures.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Why are we adding a Schedule C? I mean, I guess my question is, what's wrong with the one that's on there? It should be fine. That's why I'm just trying to understand the feedback.
Are you talking about the new Schedule C or the old one, Kate?
Well, technically, I think it's the same schedule. Let me look.
Yeah, the schedule has not changed.
Yeah.
So it's just the way they get paid. They submit an invoice, and so that's essentially what you're changing?
Yes, and I was trying to keep the old schedule just so, we have in our minds what we can expect to see when they ask for reimbursement. You know what I mean? That
Okay.
the first progress payment would really be, it should cover that first, what is it, 30 days, or it should cover those specific things, give or take. You know what I mean? They may be farther
Yeah.
along, and if they can show, they they should be entitled to more, then that's fine. But I had left it in there just so that as a baseline minimum, don't come to us and ask for the funds until you've completed at least this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this?
No.
No.
No,
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
This is
I'll make-
Sharon. I'll motion.
All right, so we have John and Sharon. So Heather King, I vote yes. Suzanne Spellin,
Yes.
Sharon Nichols made the motion. Brian Barker,
Yes.
Andrew Cooper,
Yes.
Jeanette Nicholson,
yes,
John Cubitt made the motion. Christina Maribel,
Yes.
Patricia Riley.
Yes.
Okay. So before we adjourn today, there have been, and Christina, this kind of goes to you a little bit. We do encourage if any of our board members or the public would like to attend some committee meetings, be it the A&D, the executive, or the finance committee meetings, you feel free. We do love the input, and it's where a lot of the conversations happen. So we have had some changes in time. Tony, do you want to update for the next month when the committee meetings are and when the next board meeting is?
Sure. Acquisition and Disposition Committee will meet at 3:30 on Tuesday, August 11th. Let me just double check that. Yeah, that's correct. And immediately after that, that committee meeting, Executive Committee is scheduled to meet at 4:30, again, Tuesday, August 11th. And the board meeting is regularly scheduled for the third Wednesday of the month, although I have to admit we've been kind of jumping that around this year. And if we stick to that schedule, then the next board meeting would be
The 19th?
Wednesday, August 19th at 8:30.
And the reason,
Okay.
this is Kate again, the reason why we're bringing this up, and it was suggested that we do this, is because when we come to these meetings, they really should be the complete business of the land bank and shouldn't be drawn out more than, necessarily what we need to accomplish, approving or disapproving the resolutions and doing the business of the board. This month at A&D, we're going to be sending back to A&D the project with the Beacon Communities. They've submitted a proposed option agreement, and it looks a little different than we had discussed in the past. So we felt that it go back to the committee for review. And so it's important that if you have questions, concerns, or want information prior to the board meeting on that project, to please come to that A&D meeting. Or if you can't, please submit, your concerns and questions prior to that on the project. We will post the agenda and what we'll be talking about ahead of time. Because I just don't want, and it shouldn't be happening, where we come to a monthly business meeting and then we're rehashing the entire recommendation of the committee because folks don't have the information or haven't looked at it ahead of time. So that is one of our major projects. It was the basis of our application to Enterprise for funding. So it's really important that when we come back next month to the full meeting, that we have, a clear agenda about, how we want to handle that. And it really should be discussed in detail at A&D and not so much at the board meeting. So we're recommending all of that this month in particular because of that project.
Yes, thank you, Kate. The Finance Committee, Sharon, when is that scheduled for?
Oh, my apologies.
We actually don't have it scheduled at the moment. However, we typically try to have it shortly before the board meeting. So we often have it the Monday before the board meeting, although it's not scheduled at the moment. I need to send an email.
Okay.
So, but typically, when our board meetings happen on Wednesday, I try to have the finance committee meeting the Monday prior to that. And it typically Monday morning, sometime between 8 and 9. The Monday right before the board meeting is the most typical time for our finance committee meeting.
The standing date is the third, 8:30 a.m., the third Wednesday of each month. But as Sharon said, that gets toggled a little bit so it coincides with the board meeting. So
Do
sometimes
you foresee any major action at this one particular finance committee meeting?
The upcoming one?
Mm-hmm.
Probably there will be a discussion of cash flow again, because we are still struggling with cash flow. Like I had indicated earlier, we do think we're through the worst of it, and we do believe we have resources, but there's that. And the other thing is about reaching out for other sources of revenue, grants and whatnot. If anybody has any ideas there, and I'm glad you guys had brought up the discussion about Tony reaching out for the grant, the other grant related to the CARES Act today. I mean, anything like that is always welcome. I mean, we try to keep our eyes and ears open, but if anyone is aware of any funding sources that we haven't tapped, something that we should be looking into, if they have special knowledge in an area, we would absolutely welcome them to the finance committee to, let us know what they know, what's out there, and what we could be maybe trying to access. That would be wonderful.
That's really good. That's good, and that's actually good information. So let us know when the next finance committee meeting is. I do have some ideas myself. So I'll make sure if at least at the minimum is getting that information over to Tony for you guys to be able to discuss.
Fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anything else from any questions, comments, concerns?
This is Andrew. I just have one thing. Could I ask I mean, I know we post everything on the website, but it seems like it wouldn't be that difficult, and it sure would be helpful to me and maybe others if for the agendas for the committee meetings, if they could just be sent out to everybody as a reminder, like, oh, hey, in 2 days is this committee and this is on the discussion.
I think that is a wonderful goal. And I think that'd be very helpful for everybody.
Asking.
No, because you're right. Because I think this is the first time that we've, and Patricia, I thank you for bringing that up, because it's, earlier, like asking questions, and just, it is important. It's just, I feel like sometimes we fly a little bit by the seat of our pants and there's a last minute changes always.
Sure.
But this one we've known in advance, and sometimes we don't get that purchase application until the day of, but this definitely would be, if you were to come to an A&D, this is a good one. This is a good one to come to. And again, like Sharon said, I do think if everybody has any ideas for any potential funding sources, finance as well. Executive tends to be more about putting together all the various pieces from the different committees and then just setting the agenda and any type of bigger picture commentary at the executive. But no, I do think that's a great idea, Andrew. That is a goal, right, Tony?
Yeah, you gotta set goals, right? I mean, it doesn't mean you reach them all. But.
I just want to make sure I heard Andrew correctly. Andrew, were you saying you would like non-committee members to see what's on each committee agenda when it goes out?
Yes.
Okay. Yep,
mostly as a reminder that even if there's no particular items on the agenda, it's standing items only. It would be, I mean, just helpful to me. I mean, I know that's kind of a lazy response. Instead of, you could go check the website, but
it's not lazy at all. It's actually because it's in your face, and it's the emails are in your face, and I think that's a good thing. So
and that was suggested as part of what we're doing this month with A&D, that the entire board be copied on that. So we are right with you.
Excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, this project is really big. It's good for us. So yeah, it's good. All right. Well, unless anybody else has anything else to say, I hope everybody's doing well and staying safe. I am going to make a motion to adjourn at 9:26 p.m. And I would like to thank everybody for being present, and hopefully we'll get to see each other soon in person,
See you,
6
Richard.
feet apart.
Very well.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
everyone.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.